Hi, this is Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. Tonight, I want to talk about the time that I felt most alive. And the times that I have felt most alive began with November 13th, 2002, the day that I was doing a seminar. One second I was fine, and the next second I needed an ambulance. And even while I was waiting for the ambulance, on the way to the hospital, in the ambulance, in the hospital, on the fifth day when I flatlined, everything preceding that and everything after that, that whole experience, I felt never more alive. And that's odd, probably, for the acorn brain to comprehend, right? For most people that haven't experienced the other side like I have, that haven't experienced the infinite. And I'm really blessed that I was able to experience the infinite. I don't know why I got a second chance, that I was given a second chance at life, but I got one. And what I can say is that I felt most alive because I was without all that judgment thinking of the acorn brain, all the things that we judge here with, right? The idea that there's different sexes and different sexual preferences and different political parties and different leanings, different nationalities, different religions, different races. None of that existed in the moments leading up to my death, during my death, and my time on the other side, and when I came back. And it lingers with me very strongly today. And I have to say, though, back in my body, I notice many days where small-minded thinking begins to creep in. And any kind of judgment or any kind of making others wrong is all small-minded thinking. And we don't have to look far for it today, because we have both political parties trying to make each other wrong. We have people of different sexual preferences trying to make the other wrong, and people of different religions trying to make the other wrong, and all the different nationalities and countries and the way governments run, communism, socialism, free market. Everyone spends a lot of time making the other side wrong and or being afraid of the other side, and none of it exists. What makes me laugh so much is that John Lennon, in his song, "What if there was none of all these things," right? Or what if there were no countries? What if there were no religions? What if we just gave up wanting other people to think like we did, and we stopped grandstanding and getting on a soapbox and wanting everyone to think the same? Because guess what? It's all ridiculous. When we get on the other side, it's all gone. None of it is there. Do you think God has a political party or a Congress? And I call it God, but it was the life force. It was the infinite. You know that you're one with everything and nothing all at the same time. It's a fascinating experience. It's a place, just like this is a place. I went from here to there and back. I went from here in a hospital bed to there in an eye blink, and it was a place. It wasn't like I experienced some blood-curdling screams and didn't want to go. It just happened so fast. I was here, and then I was there, and it was in the blink of an eyelash, and I believe the blink of a wink, I should say, the blink of an eye wink. And even if preceding it there was a lot of pain, and there were times where there was pain, it didn't feel like a burden, or it didn't have me wanting to die or wanting to escape my body. And yes, they offered me drugs in the beginning. They offered me pretty strong drugs, what they give to soldiers in the battlefield when they've been wounded. And after a few days, I declined it, and eventually was weaned off of any kind of drug because it just didn't work for me. What I had was, one of the best drugs was gratitude and being so glad and happy to be in the moment. Little did I know when I first went in on November 13th, 2002, that I was going to flatline 5 days later, and it just didn't matter. The whole experience to me was amazing. And I would do it again. Now, I hope you all don't die tonight, but we don't die. We just move from this to that. We just transition, but we hang so tightly onto this physical experience. We hang so tightly on accomplishing something and showing others how smart we are, and all the different degrees and houses and titles and jobs. And even if we're hanging on to our struggles, we hang on to those so tightly. I mean, you don't have to look far to find people that will rail against something or another, because what you have, they don't want you to have it. And they're hanging on to their poverty or small-minded thinking so tightly, or they're hanging on to the fact that they want you to adopt whatever their ideas are on climate and or politics, and it's all ridiculous. It's all so funny. I think that God has a sense of humor, and so would you once you experience what I've experienced, is to have a sense of humor about all those that are different from you, and all those that you would like to change their mind and have them think like you. It's all so funny. It's all so funny. My urge is to just be in the moment, everyone, and to let go of all that small-minded thinking, because even where you see examples of it in some of the holy and religious texts, it's where the acorn brain or the ego took over. So I see in all those writings the blessed and the inspirational, and certainly what came from the infinite, what came from the God or the divine or the goddess, again, whatever you call it. I also see where the human brain that wanted vengeance and anger and firebombing the other side that came from God to kill everybody and everything that was against them, that's human thinking, right? Because we still see it today, and we see it between families and brothers and sisters and neighbors, and between police and between regular citizens, and between governments and their citizens, and between political parties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. We won't come to that place here on earth. We'll come to it when we leave, and gradually we could all come to that place here on earth only if we can calm that automatic response, that little voice that wants us to get angry, even in traffic or even at our children or even at our relatives. That voice first. First, I have to work on me and change that voice within inside of me, and not worry about changing anyone. Anyone else's life is no longer my business. I don't care. I'm glad that people have an opinion. And if you asked me, I would certainly share my opinion with you on anything. But also, I think it's funny because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's our president, who will our next president be. I just want to be in the moment. Just be here for today, because that was when I got up on November 13th. I had plans. 2002. I had plans. I had a future. I had a past. I had regrets. None of that matters to me anymore. I know that everything that's occurred in my past was perfect. I wouldn't be here now. And that we're not supposed to judge each other's or others very harshly. It's humans that want people to pay for their sins or their mistakes here, as I call them, and then burn in hell forever. And there was none of that. Only the good I had done was mentioned. And so think about that. When you do good, think about how you feel. And think about allowing yourself to do good and allowing yourself to stop judging others and to overcome that small-minded thinking, that acorn brain that we all have. I'm not saying that I am exempt from it. I'm certainly not. I have it back in my body. But the one thing that's very freeing when you don't have your body is none of that even occurs to you. There's no past. There's no future. There's only the now. And none of that even occurs to you. So none of this small-minded thinking goes with you. You're not going to get a speeding ticket in heaven, nor are you going to be judged. In fact, you won't be male or female. You won't have a race, and you won't have a religion. You're just going to be life energy called a soul. And it's fascinating. You'll just have to take my word for it until you get there. And I hope you get the opportunity to come back so there's more of us spreading the word that God is amazing. The life force is amazing. It's infinite. It's way beyond any of our small-minded thinking. So work in the next day or two, in the next week or two, in the next month or two, the next year or two, as long as you can hold on to the idea. Work on overcoming yourself and noticing how alive you feel when you stop judging. And I can only say again how alive I felt leading up to the moments to when I was no longer in my body. And I felt alive in the other place without my body. And so you too can garner that feeling by stop judging and finding things to be angry about and just let life live through you. I think of baseball players and other athletes who talk about the sweet spot when they didn't think about it much and it just happened. They let the game come to them and they perform better than ever instead of fighting and railing against things and being angry and living a life of so much frustration. I mean, yes, it's good to work on changing something. I'd like to see term limits and career politicians go away. I don't think it was ever meant to be a career by our founders. And you know what? I really don't care. I'm going to work at it. It's something I stand for. I stand for what I'm for is waking people up, breaking that small-minded acorn brain thinking, as I call it, limited thinking, and helping people break into limitless thinking. Expansive, infinite, godlike thinking, divine-like thinking, goddess-like thinking, whatever you call it, because it doesn't matter. And that's where we would not be making others wrong because they think differently than we do. But don't take my word for it. Work on yourself. Your only job is yourself, and your job is, like, as I've said, other people's lives are none of your business, and they're certainly none of mine, and I have fun living this way. And I'm grateful. If you'd like to share with me your thoughts, feel free. If you'd like me to interview you on the podcast, please contact me, Steve at stevelentini.com, Steve at stevelentini.com. Thank you.